the basic wet mix for method shaving is the one that I just showed you. That's the basic standard mix. You have your cloth, you have your primer, where your cloth is loaded with water. You take your cutting balm, and you build your basic, what we call wet mix. And I'm going to add some activator to it. And now we're going to get, it's going to be showtime here. We're going to get going. We're going to get this guy built up again. You're going to take it, flip your cloth back and forth. Of course, we've done this now many times, but repetition in this case is probably helpful. And then what we're going to do is when you pull your wet mix out of the cloth, here's a little trick for you so that you don't lose it in the sink. What you want to do is just take it, hold it on the top of your hand like that. See how I'm doing that? Just hold it like that. If you use activator, you will stabilize it so you can do this. If you don't use activator, you run the risk of running too much water through the mix and it'll fall into the sink. Activator, okay, in this respect, is a stabilizing agent that allows that to happen. And then just take it, dump it in the middle of the cloth, fold it over, extract it again. Notice how I'm holding it on top of my hand. And one more time. Every time you do this, you will both volumize it and you will make it wetter. And there's your hydrogenic sac loaded with water, a bag, balloon if you will, loaded with water. The glory of method shaving right there, all right? And you can, if you want, you can set it down on the side or whatever you want to do, and you can use it for later on if you want to do it twice. Slag mix is strictly pulling slag manually off the primer, as I did earlier. This is a slag mix right here. It's great for spot cutting. In the middle of the shave, when you're reducing the forms, or at the end of the shave, when you want to spot cut aggressively toward the end of your shave. You can cut it by itself, depending on how fast it is. I get asked every day of my life, what's the difference between the primers? What's the difference between verbena and lavender and palm and olive and the rounds? Well, here you have it right here. The difference is the consistency of the primer. All right, I can't tell you exactly how that consistency is going to change. You simply have to try the different primers to see. They're all outstanding. Your preference for one or the other will change based on your shaving needs, wants, and desires. But that is a slag primer with nothing else in it, okay? I can add activator to this. Think of it as just a small hydrogenic sac. I can add activator to it, I can add some water to it, I can add cutting balm to it, I can add any number of things I want to it if I want to change it. Otherwise, I can just pull it manually from the hard soap primer, put it up and cut it. Many of you have been through my clinics, have watched me do this at the end of the shave. We cut the forms, you hot rinse down, and I'll say, okay, now just wait a minute. I'll pick up the hard soap primer, hand lather it, and I'll pull this beautiful, beautiful finishing slag, put it up, and then we blade off, and we're perfect. The next one is the standard wet mix, which I just did with sitting in here. There's your standard wet mix right there, coming out of your cloth. All right, look at that hydrogenic sac. You see now, see how buoyant that is? Look at that. It's loaded with water. I've had it sitting in the cloth where it's pulled water out of the cloth and it's just full of water. Look at that. It's just bouncing. It's bouncing like a basketball. It's incredible, okay? That's the miracle of method shaving right there. And that's the stuff that is like a wet sponge. It's going to carry that blade like it's on shock absorbers. A cutting mix is simply a wet mix we've pulled from the cloth, we've put up, and we've stretched with our fingertips, and we've set. Okay? That is what a cutting mix is. So we've gone from a slag mix to the standard wet mix to the cutting mix, which is what we pull and put up on our face. And that can be straight out of the cloth. We can pull it, we can fold it, we can put some cutting balm in it, we can load it with activator, we can load it with water. That's what distinguishes it from a regular wet mix. Is once you modify it on your face, it becomes a cutting mix. The last mix, or the last media that we're talking about here is also, the last one is called a glossing mix. And a glossing mix is when you include the paste in the process, okay? And that can be done one of two ways. You can pull your wet mix, dip some paste, and massage it right into the mix and put it up. Or you can cut the mix through the forms, hot rinse down, build another small amount of wet mix if you want, put it up, and then what you do is you take your paste, massage your paste into the skin, and you cut it. All I'm saying is that when you combine the paste with the wet mix out of the cloth, that's called a glossing mix, because it's the paste that puts the magnificent method shaving gloss on your skin. And it's the microsilica and components in the paste that do that. So when you combine paste with your mix, that becomes a glossing mix, or a glossing agent. Or rather, the paste is a glossing agent. Combined with the paste, the mix becomes a glossing mix. And that pretty much wraps it up. Thank you for joining me.